The work that we do is in the midst of a very emotionally charged experience. When Ryan was talking about earlier that people make decisions because of emotions and then they rationalize why they made that decision, it's actually true. One of the biggest traps in our industry is the concept of transference. Transference is when I take on the emotional state of someone else. And it is a massive issue in our industry. For instance, if I went to a shrink and I presented my issues to the shrink and that shrink sat there and started crying, that would not be a good experience that I would be having as a potential client of that shrink. I would think, oh my gosh, I'm a lot more screwed up than I thought I was if the shrink's crying. So the issue is that in the midst of the emotions, how can we separate empathy from transference? So transference is me taking on the emotional state of my client. I am useless as a trusted advisor when I've taken on the emotional state of my client. I cannot be at 30,000 feet as a trusted advisor.
Jim, that's really interesting. And in this idea of empathy, Ryan, can talk a bit about that in this customer experience, because it's critical to have empathy.
Yeah, it is one of the foundational elements. You can't surprise and delight or go above and beyond your customers' expectations if you don't have empathy, if you can't put yourself in their shoes. And like Jim pointed out so well, it was so well said, empathizing doesn't mean transferring their emotions.
The overuse of empathy that can and sometimes turns into transference is an issue. And I think that it's misunderstood that the practitioner thinks they're doing their job if they're yelling and screaming and doing all of those things, because that's what their client would want them to do. So how do we separate the idea of I want to empathize, but I must have the boundaries around I'm the professional? Jim, what do you think? How did you learn that and evolve to that?
I don't know, Diane, where the process started, but it definitely started probably the last 10 years. I'll give you an example. We were excited about attempting to figure out a way to close 7 days early on a transaction. We were representing the buyer. We ended up having the lender figure that out, and we were very excited that they were going to be able to close 7 days early. I called up the realtor on representing the seller and let him know about this exciting news because their clients lived in Texas. So I thought that they would be absolutely thrilled. The fact is the clients were thrilled. The other fact is the realtor told me that that's not going to be possible to close 7 days early because we can't get the staging out until 3 days after that. And the challenge was that their movers could only deliver their furniture on the dates of the 7 day early close. So I did not involve our client buyer in that information. So I learned that this was a Friday, that it was going to be delivered on a Friday. They couldn't get the staging out till the next Monday. They couldn't move into the house with the staging there. Okay, so we've got a problem. So I enlisted the listing agent. I explained what the issue was, and she said, okay, let's figure this out. So we called up the staging company. They said, we cannot do it. I said, in all realms of possibility, could you figure this out? Well, let me get back to you. So they hired another crew. They held the furniture on the truck for over the weekend, and it only cost $500 extra to do that. Well, all of that drama over the days I was trying to figure this out was not important for our buyer to know. Then I bring in to the conversation the buyer and say, here's the issue that we've had this week. Let me tell you how we have figured it out. you're now going to close escrow 7 days early and be able to move your furniture in that day. So that's just a real life example of managing the emotional stuff that happens in a transaction.
Yeah, I love, Jim, what you're talking about there is, you have these two really important values that you hold in your customer experience, or again, what I call promises. But one is that you will be this consummate professional or trusted advisor or whatever you want to call that. And the other is that you have this deep empathy. You really understand the customer. You understand them well enough to understand that they don't want to hear the mess. They don't want you to bring them problems. They want you to bring them solutions.